Aloha, and welcome back to another episode of the Ohana Packers Edition podcast, the podcast where two dudes from halfway around the world talk everything green and gold. I'm Mike, and that's Iowa Joe, and today, because the Packers have stubbornly not extended Jordan Love yet, and there has been no other breaking news from around the league, I'd like to send a thank you to my wife, Marisol, for giving us the idea of doing summer superlatives for the roster to change things up for the fans. So, Joe, how are you doing today?
It's another day. It's getting harder and harder to come up with topics to talk about during these lulls because we've got barely any information coming out on OTAs and no signings, no real releases. I did see, if people would go back and listen to the episode with Andy Herman where we talked about Kylan Hill, I did see that he was signed to a CFL practice squad. So, he's kicking around still somewhere. But other than that, there's really no news anywhere about anything.
Yeah, exactly. Excuse me. So like the biggest Packers news is that Devondre Campbell's got 10.7 million dollar cap hit for his from being released with a post June 1st designation has come off the Packers salary cap for 2024. So that's why I kind of pointed to right now as being a time for the team to announce a Jordan Love, a Kenny Clark, anyone extension at this point in time, because the Packers know what kind of moolah they're working with at this point. But so far, no fish have bit. So we're going to roll with it into the Packers 2024 offseason summer superlatives. So this one is going to be fun because Marisol and I came up with the majority of these. Yes, last night I did send these to Joe, but honestly, we're going off the cuff with these, and we're just going to give you these until we fill the hour, and we're going to have as much fun with it as we can. So, Joe, let's start out with a pretty standard, quote-unquote, serious one. Most likely to have a breakout season in 2024.
I'm going to go with a not so surprising one, but one that'll be more refreshing, and that's Jair Alexander. I think if he stays healthy in this halfly press man system, that's the type of corner he is. And obviously, with the question marks behind him being Eric Stokes, Carrington Valentine, Corey Ballantyne, Kalen King, those kind of question marks there, teams are going to want to avoid Jair as much as possible and target those other guys. So I think in a way this will be his breakout season to come back and be a top 5 corner.
Right on. Good pick. And I'm going to stick on the defensive side. I'm going to say Quay Walker. I just find it funny how, everyone's like, oh, like the new linebackers, which is always something with the fancy new toy. But I do think that we did see solid upticks in certain areas of Quay's game last year. I know he hasn't had the dynamic instant impact that a lot of people were hoping for, but at the same time, if you look at how Barry's system utilized him, there wasn't a lot of aggressive blitz sends. It was kind of like I guess we need to make something happen. It always felt like for Quay to be used as a blitzer, even, it was because either LaFleur was yelling at Barry or because someone was hurt on the defensive front. It was always a forced card play instead of like an organic, natural usage of Quay. So I'm liking Quay for a breakout role in 2024.
The thing about it though is he didn't have anybody as a running mate to be that coverage linebacker either. So
yeah.
No offense to Isaiah McDuffie. I mean, I love McDuffie and I love what he's done so far, but he's not so much a coverage linebacker. He's similar to Quay in a way that he's a jack of all trades, master of none type thing, where he can do little bits of coverage, he can do a little bit of rushing, and he's going to do a ton of tackling. But you don't want to rely on him as a coverage backer. You don't want to rely on him as as a rush backer. And Quay is kind of has been in that kind of boat where he's had to be the jack of all trades and master of none because of not having that opposite of him. So he's had to take on more as a coverage backer, as a tackling backer, instead of being able to rush. Now, obviously, I know the big thing about Cooper is he's supposed to be the same way as Quay. So who knows what's going to go on there. But, if you go by the rookie mini camps and the OTAs so far, they're really, hyping up Edgerrin Cooper to be, that playmaker next to Quay. And it's going to be interesting to see how they play them going forward.
Yep. Excited to see. One of the things I'm really looking forward to in the preseason. All right, let's have a little bit of fun with some of these. Most likely to out-chug Bakhtiari.
Oh, we already know that answer, and that's Tucker Kraft. So, I mean, if I had to go with anybody, it'd be Tucker, because, I mean, let's face it, there's a lot of guys on that team that are the typical or stereotypical frat boy, type guys, but we've already seen that Tucker can hold his own with Bakhtiari and who was it they went against? Was it last year?
Yeah, it must have been last year.
Was it one of the Bosas?
Oh, yeah, I think it was. I think it was Nick.
Yeah, it was Kittle and Bosa, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah, so they are, Kraft has already held his own with, top tier guys when it comes to that kind of thing. So if I had to go with anybody, it'd probably be Tucker. But I mean, he's the one we've seen more often. But like I said, there's a lot of guys on the team that are the stereotypical frat boy type guys that are probably could outdo any of them.
Yep. And I'm going to go with a different frat boy on our team. I'm going to go with your dude, Lucas. So
I thought about it, but man, I don't know with the type of specimen he is. I don't know if he even drinks beer.
His body might reject it, right? Isn't that where the country strong comes from, though?
No, that's the corn.
Corn. Yes. You're right. All right. Bouncing around here. Most likely to surprise this season, and you can interpret that however you like.
Most likely to surprise. I'm going to go with Stokes. I've been a big believer in Stokes. I the way it sounds with all the technical terms that are coming out of camp about what they found out in Madison, that they're really on a plan on how to. I not necessarily on the Stokes train, but I was reading something earlier about Christian Watson that they found out that his muscle mass in one leg was like 10% more than it was in the other leg. So that kind of went into why he was having, issues with the hamstring and the other leg. So now he's tempered it down. So it sounds like they're kind of doing the same with Stokes, that they figured out what's hindering him. And they're saying that, or he's come out and said that he thinks he's running faster than he ever has. And this is a guy that ran a 4.25 40 at the friggin' combine. And if he's running faster than a 4.25, that's like Dion speed.
Yep.
I mean, That's running the 40 and then running out of the stadium type speed because you have nothing left to prove.
Yep. So I agree. It would be a pleasant surprise for Stokes to be that bounce back guy. And I'm going to go in a very, very different direction. And I'm going to go with Rasheed Walker, proving he is the left tackle we've been looking for. I know that won't seem like a surprise, but you just count everything that's going to get. I don't want to necessarily say going against him, but he is the former 7th round pick. He wasn't the outright starter last year. They were rotating him as the season went along, and they potentially drafted his replacement in Jordan Morgan. You and I have both set our pieces on that, where they go, and but I think that, and we've seen those reports from a couple different sources that Rashid took the Morgan selection as well as the team hoped he would, where he kind of just said, "All right, buck up, let's strap, let's get the pads on and let's see who's gonna win this thing." So I'm hoping for I'm hoping for a big year out of Walker this season, because it would obviously be great for the Packers if that's what happens.
Right, and I'm still on the hype train with him. That's why I'm kind of I'll never question Goody on anything with that he does for the most part. I mean, I'm not going to say he's a god or anything like that he can do no wrong. There are going to be times that it's going to be like, okay, that may have been not the best decision or whatever. But that was the one knock that I had on the Jordan Morgan pick. And I know we've talked about this ad nauseum and we beat this horse to death. But that was the one knock I had on Jordan Morgan, was he's played left tackle all his career, but he's probably going to play more guard or maybe even center. Maybe he'll kick out to right tackle. And there's just too many maybes at that.
Yeah.
So, and I've always rode the Rashid Walker a hype train. I liked the pick when it was made. I know the hype when the pick was made was that had certain things went different ways, he would have not fell to the 7th round, or people were surprised he fell to the 7th round. Kind of like the Carrington Valentine pick. They were surprised he fell that far. They were surprised he fell that far. But there were some issues there that caused him to fall that far. Now we're seeing why they were surprised that they fell so far. They came in as rookies. They came in, they started, they took over spots that everybody was worried about, and they held their own. Did they look great when it started? No, but then they started filling that spot, and you didn't want anybody else. They even stopped the Yosh rotation after a while because he was dominating. So,
yep.
Yeah, I'm all for it. I
Yep.
like the Walker.
Yep. So that's
he definitely just needs to go ahead and hump somebody on the field so we can get that out of the way.
Maybe after he starts to make real NFL money, not 7th round NFL pick money. All right. Who do you think will have the team's highest Madden rating?
I'm going to. I know the one that a lot of people are probably going to say is Jordan, but I think there's still going to be a lot of people out there that are going to be skeptical. He's probably going to get a low to mid 80 rating.
Yeah.
So I'm going to say probably Jair. There's 3 guys that I have in my mind right now that it's probably going to be, but just to pick one, I'm going to say it's Jair.
Yeah. I'll go in a different direction because I do think we'll have pretty similar short list, whether it's top 3 or 5 kind of thing. I'll go on the offensive side of the ball. I'll say Elton. Just to be different. I know that one's more of a stretch, but I agree with you. Based on position, the height of his play, it's probably Jair, but I'll go with Elton because of his when he's at his best, how good he is, and his positional versatility. I know that doesn't come through in a Madden rating, but I know that they kind of make the ratings off of like how good of a player you are and all that kind of stuff too. So Elton will be mine.
Yeah. The only thing that, and he wasn't in the top 3 of the ones that I was thinking of, but I mean, it's a good pick, but the problem is it depends on the year, because Madden either overvaluates their guys along the offensive line or they majorly undervaluate the guys on the offensive line.
Yeah.
Like what was it? Was it this past Madden? I think the highest grade on the offensive line right off the bat was like an 85 or something like that. So, I mean, and that's when, your top tier offensive linemen, well, whatever. But the top 3 that I had was either going to be Jair, Rashawn, or Kenny. because
Yeah.
those three are the guys that I think have the most to them, that have the rep, have the stats to go with it. But I mean, Elton would be a solid one depending on how they evaluate the offensive line this year.
Player you'd like to travel the country with the most?
God, none of them. Could you imagine?
Not even your Hawkeye?
Well, could you imagine the food bills and the gas bills and I'm trying to, because see, my problem when I'm traveling is if I'm traveling with somebody, I don't talk a lot. So I've got to think of somebody who's not going to sit there and friggin' just be a chatterbox.
Wheeling. Nah.
But then when they do talk, I would love to hear the stories out of.
That's true.
So who would I want to? Does it have to be a player?
No. You can use this. You can use this as however you'd like. Anyone within the organization.
I would think Gutekunst.
That's a good one.
Because the conversations we could have on the road, or when we would have conversations, that would be. Plus, I'd make him pick up the bill because you know.
Oh, that's a good one. I'm going with the Homer pick. I'm going with Rashawn. I'd love to travel the country with Rashawn. Talk Packers. Talk Michigan Wolverines. Talk his sports agency. Talk a whole bunch of things. So I would have a whole fun traveling the country with Rashawn and just.
My problem is the way he values his health. You know, like his workout ethics and all that stuff. I would feel him judging me every time I would go to eat something or go to drink something, and I would not have fun with that.
I would be that horrible influence on him, and then when everyone goes, why is Rashawn 20 pounds overweight? He had a little too much Kahlua pig and cabbage.
But I mean, yeah, if I would have to go with a player, maybe Jordan Love.
That would be fun.
That would be a decent one because he seems to me like he's got that that sly humor, not the dry humor like Rodgers had or the overt humor like Favre had, but that sly one where you don't expect it, and all of a sudden he's saying something funny, and it's like, do I laugh? Was that a laugh moment?
Am I allowed to laugh? Someone tell me, please. I want to have a good time.
But if I had to go to player, it would probably be now. If he was still on the team, it would probably be Aaron Jones. I've had enough conversations with Aaron Jones, and
that's a good one.
That's
a great one.
He's a fun one, yeah. But if we're going current team, probably, like I said, probably Love. I mean, I would pick Lucas, but it's the same thing as Rashawn. I would just feel the judgment every time something would happen.
I think Lucas, you have at least the chance that you're gonna find out. Oh, this dude, he's just one of these. He eats whatever the hell he wants, and he looks like that anyway. I think we know that Rashawn is the others, like you said, where he's a little more of the he's the Bane workouts and all that kind of stuff. But I think Lucas is that combination of like country strong, country built kind of thing, and also he's young, so he hasn't fully immersed himself in a like full on. This is how a professional preps for the season.
Well, that's the other hard part of everything is a lot of these guys on the team are so young, and I'm a lot older than they are, that it's just hard to. I feel like the dad taking the kid.
We're gonna be that Steve Buscemi gift. Hey, you kids!
Hey, fellow kids!
Yeah. Do you guys still eat Cheese Whiz?
I would feel like a dad taking his kid to friggin' soccer practice or something.
Don't forget your shorts, your shoes, and your jacket in case it rains out there.
So I have to go with somebody that's a little bit closer to my age, and that's the coaching staff. That's the sad bit. It's the coaching staff.
That or Preston.
No, I'm still even older than Preston.
But at least he's within the same sort of generation.
Yeah, I suppose. Yeah.
First man off the bus. And
First
for
man
those
off
of
the
you
bus.
who are not indoctrinated in athletics lingo, first man off the bus means who is that first dude or dudette, if you don't want to, but this is a NFL football team, first dude off the bus that you're like, this is our shock and awe treatment, and who are we sending off to get us in the vibe? Who are you picking, Joe?
Well, for one, you're going to want it to be a starter, because even though you have guys like Caleb Jones and is it Donovan Jennings? That's also like 6'6", 300.
Jennings is the one we just signed this year.
Well, I'm trying. I know he's the one that we just signed this year. I'm trying to think what his size is. Is he? Because I know Glover is another one that's like a massive man, like 6'5",
yeah,
320 or something like that.
Then there's like Tenuta, who's I don't know how and that's the thing is it's hard to pick two because you don't just want like to use other football lingo. You don't want a sloppy guy. You want a yoked big dude too.
But you also want it to be you want it to be a starter, because then that will intimidate. Like that's who I'm facing every snap. I think I can narrow it down to two. I've been awful defensive heavy. Do I want to go defense again? I'd probably go Slayton, TJ Slayton, because he's the massive man. He's the starter type that you get a center out there that sees him come off the bus and it's like, wait, I gotta stare down this guy the whole game. I think I just hurt my ankle. Or it'd be Elton.
That's a good one too. Yeah, a year ago I probably would have said Bakhtiari, honestly. I'll go with Kenny. I'll go with Kenny for a lot of the reason that you stated. That it's and especially when you play the Minnesota Vikings,
right?
Bradbury, your dad's home, Bradbury. So,
I mean, you could theoretically say a guy like AJ Dillon, but we all know how Dillon's played the last few years, so it's not as terrifying when you see that massive man, but you put his career numbers along with the massiveness.
Yeah.
Where like a guy like Kenny or Slayton or Elton, you know what they are. I mean, Elton put Aaron Donald to shame.
Yeah, he had Aaron Donald so mad that he tried to choke him out,
and still couldn't do it.
Nope. And then just for other considerations, obviously our your and my homework picks, Lucas and Rashawn, I think would be good picks for this one too.
Yeah, Lucas definitely, just because of his massive like wingspan. He definitely looks like a Bigfoot type guy where you just see the lumbering arms.
You want a guy who has to duck and turn coming out of that door.
Yeah. Yeah.
Building off of this one, last man off the bus.
Oh, it's got to be a kicker or the punter. I'm just so Whelan or Carlson.
Anders. I think it's Anders because Whelan is actually, I think he's like 6'4" or something. So I think,
no offense, he's a punter. You don't want the punter to be one of the first one off the team, or I mean off the bus.
But to be dead last, it's Anders.
Yeah, but Anders is like 6'4", isn't he?
Hold on, let's see.
Because he's a tall, lanky motherfucker.
Oh yeah, you're right. Oh, he's actually taller than Whelan.
Yeah, he's 6'5", 218. So
flip a coin. Which one of you has been playing worse the last couple weeks? Or honestly, the sleeper from this past season is freaking Orzik. Snap better, damn it. Don't gotta come off the bus like you're in witness protection. Snap the ball better.
No shit. Yeah, like I said, it'd have to be one of them, because even though they are kind of tall, lanky guys,
it's a thin, tall. It's not like like that dude's like kind of like a a wiry like cut kind of athlete. It's still a tall, skinny punter or kicker.
Well, not just that, but they don't inspire fear because of the position they play. You can have a small, lanky guy if he's a headhunter out on the field playing defensive back or something.
Yeah.
But when the kicker or punter's job is to stay away from contact, that doesn't inspire any fear at all.
Yep. So, oh, we're just burying specialists.
Oh, I would
right.
take a kicker in a heartbeat in a fight, because that leg would come in handy, man. They're gonna split that up right.
Most likely to be an NFL coach in the future. You can make this just position, coordinator, head coach.
Oh man, now you're really getting tough. If he was still on the team, Aaron Jones would be the easiest answer right there, because he inspires a lot of players, and we found that out last year with Jaden Reed and Dontavian Wicks and guys like that. I'm trying to think of somebody from last year that people talked about as being a guy that was very outspoken during practices and stuff like that. I don't know, man. You really stumped me. I mean, I'm sure any of them would be great coaches because they've got experience, but it's whether or not they can pass on that experience to younger players. Maybe Preston would be a solid linebackers coach or an edge coach.
That's a good one.
The other problem is we have a young team, so it's hard to gauge a lot of these things.
The genesis for this one for me was mine is going to be Sean Clifford, because they said that's literally one of the reasons they picked him, is like he's this heady older draft prospect last year who's kind of seen it all, and I don't want to say done it all, but he's played against a lot of different defenses, been a player who's had to deal with playing behind no offensive line, change at his receiver and tight end groups, all that kind of stuff. So someone who can and isn't, and that's another thing. I don't want to say that the best players are never good coaches, but generally speaking, across all sports, the best players have tended not to be the greatest coaches when they move past their playing career.
Well, you never see a lot of the great players become coaches.
Yeah.
It's always guys who were like on the bottom rung of the rosters or didn't do much.
If you can't do coach kind of thing and stuff. But that's what I'm saying. Like with Clifford, is like he's not a overwhelming physical specimen. I know he's like a really good athlete for by RAS score and stuff like that. But his arm is decent to average and stuff. So
I would say he's a better Matt Flynn. He's got a stronger arm, but he's about around the Matt Flynn style.
Yeah, Matt Flynn, especially before the elbow surgery thing. So,
but yeah, that one's really a hard one. I guess I would have to just say Preston out of.
Okay, let me twist it a little bit. Player you would like to see be a coach, and you can say for whatever reason why. So, for example, I don't think he would be a great coach, but Jair,
you just stole mine, because I was going to say I think he would be Dion times 2. Who I would like to see be coached just to see the world burn.
Oh my god, what?
Because that's basically a Dion type thing. They're so flamboyant, they're so out there that they're going to draw more attention to themselves than the actual team. Jair would be the perfect one. Maybe Carrington, because he's the same way.
Same idea. Yep. Keyshawn, like we're picking
Keyshawn.
all court, but that never say die attitude. Yep. Your let the world burn one. I thought you were gonna say Royce Newman for your let the world burn one.
No, because knowing him, he would become like an amazing coach or something, because that's the bottom of the rung, of the roster.
Better than
type
James
guy
Campion kind of thing. Yeah.
Yeah. No, that's just how I viewed the question in my head was, who would you pick as a coach? Not because they'd be a great coach, but because they, you would just let the world burn. Rashawn, because I think he could have like a Lombardi type thing to him where he's not going to back down. He's just going to chew your ass out for every little thing. And it's not going to be a rah, rah, rah. It's going to be what the hell's going on out there type thing.
Yeah. But it would be funny because like I know that Rashawn has tried to like take on being more of like the vocal person in the huddle kind of thing and stuff. But and I don't know, he's a 6 years older man than he was when he was in Ann Arbor. But all the things in Ann Arbor was he was just a hard, keep his head down, hard worker, more of a quiet type. And even when you see him in the post games or like the interviews or the locker room stuff, he'll howl, he'll yell, he'll celebrate kind of thing. But he's more of like, I'm working hard with you too kind of thing and stuff. So it would be interesting to see. But I do agree with you that he would almost more intimidate you into doing, but like with his like demeanor and actions than like what he yells at you kind of thing and stuff. But so that would be an interesting and fun one.
Yeah. I don't know. That one had to take a lot of thinking and a lot of research on.
All right. If there were a team-wide dodgeball tournament, who is getting picked first?
Oh, love that arm. I could build a dodgeball team just out of love and the offensive lineman.
I'm going off the wall here. I'm going Dontavion Wicks because I've got a guy who can throw it and I've got a guy who can catch it too.
Yeah, that would make sense. Yeah. But right. I could build a team out of love and like 3 offensive linemen and 2 tight ends.
Oh, they should do that. That like McCarthy used to take the team like paintballing and shit like that.
They still do that. We just don't hear about it a lot anymore.
Yeah. A lot of the same guys in the building, so I'm sure they say.
Because I'm trying to remember last year when I was up at OTAs, they skipped practice because they were doing a team building. I just can't remember what they did last year for their team building thing.
All right. Most likely to have a doomsday bunker.
Huh. Well, that would obviously be Aaron Rodgers. But he's not on the team anymore. I seem to be picking on this guy for everything, but just with as out there as he is, I don't know if he would do it because he believes that there's going to be a doomsday or just because he did it for, what the hell. And that's Jair. Just the way he is, I could see him just, I got it. They'd show up to his house. Jair, is that a doomsday bunker? Yeah. What the hell do you got a doomsday bunker for? I don't know.
Just in case. When you need it and don't have it.
Have the room.
I'm gonna say Tucker Kraft. I'm going with one of the Midwesterners because it's innately somewhere in the back of his family tree that whether it's for
he's from North Dakota. They have all those old silos up there. He probably already has a doomsday bunker.
He's probably just digging a hole in the ground and he has no idea why. It's hereditary.
He probably grew up in an old missile silo.
Probably pushing the missiles, and that's how he got country strong.
I don't know. That one, That one's another one that I'd have to do a lot of research on, because I know they do the goofy things on the social media, like,
Yeah.
do you believe in aliens or something like that? That's where I would have to sit down and watch those over and over again, because then you could pick out who the doomsdayer is. Because if they just say yeah, then it's whatever. But if they say yeah, but this is why, and they go into detail, then you gotta say, okay, that guy's probably got a doomsday bunker somewhere.
Oh.
Most like I like this. You should have rolled with this one too. Most likely to be picked last in dodgeball.
Let's go with
Carlson.
it. Since
Anders.
Orzik, what do I do with it? He's just gonna be down there snapping it at people.
I was just thinking one of the better ones would probably be a center, so like Josh Myers or something, because they would just be snapping the ball instead of actually throwing it.
What's going on? What is that? Jacob Monk. Since you mentioned Rogers in the other one, most likely to set up Rogers if he was still on the team. Now, hang on, guys. Let's hear him out.
Now, this is where somebody would say, well, Joe said Rogers or Jair for the other one. But after a comment I heard after practice from Jair Alexander, Rogers is not high on his list.
Right.
So I would say and this was not during an interview or anything. He was just outside and he was talking to some fans, and they asked him a question about the 2020 the championship game, and he was super pissed about how the offense went after, he had 3 interceptions and shit like that. Yeah,
Amos had one and he had 2 or whatever. Yeah.
Yeah, and he was not a super Rogers fan at that point. So I can't go with him because I know he would just be like, fuck that guy.
Bakhtiari's not on the team anymore. And that would have been too low of a hanging fruit anyway.
I'm going to go with it just because, not that I don't like him. He's probably a good person, but just because I want him off the team and I could see him, this would be my reason for him. This would add the reasoning for him to be off the team, and that would be Royce Newman.
This is the kind of objective selection process that I was hoping that you would get to, Joe. Let it rip. This is exactly what I was hoping to get out of this segment.
Him and that friggin' mullet are probably chewing tobacco and got a corn cob somewhere.
Hang on, boys. He's talking.
He's probably already got like the strings all the way across the room of how Rogers is right on some of this. Yeah. We'll go with Royce.
I was gonna say Musgrave.
No, I couldn't go with Musgrave because if you think about it this way, I could not pick any of the rookies because Rogers wouldn't have never talked to him or thrown to him anyway. So they wouldn't have been there. They wouldn't have had any of the.
I'm picking Musgrave on the pure notion that he's another West Coast dude, and was like, if Rogers had still been there last year, it would have been the whole I've got to get in this guy's camp somehow, some way kind of thing. And it's like, I'm gonna earn the brownie points, guys. Let's hear him out.
No, I don't think any of the rookies could have done anything because he would have just ignored them.
Yeah, like I said,
or he would have dropped the one question. Who was the player that said that the only question he ever asked, Rogers ever asked him was, "Do
you
believe what they say about 9/11 or whatever?" And that was
shoot.
Was that Seneca?
It might have been. Yeah. I think it was Seneca Wallace.
And that was like the only thing he ever said that Rogers ever said to him or whatever.
Yeah. Seneca Wallace was like, the fuck did I sign here for?
Yeah, no shit.
I'm about to go out in this Monday night game and throw the ball left-handed just to prove a point. Oh. All right. Most likely to fart in a team meeting and blame it on someone else.
I know who I would pick, but they haven't been on the team for a while. And that's either Josh Sitton or TJ Lang.
You're in the right room. This is definitely an O-lineman thing.
Definitely an O-line. No, I could see it being a wide receiver thing too.
Oh,
so I could see it being like a Watson or a Reed or something like that. Maybe even Dobbs. But
no,
yeah,
no, Dobbs is the next part. Dobbs is the next part of this question.
The one that catches the blame. Yeah, okay. Well, no, I know who would catch the blame, and it's because fat guys always catch the blame, and that'd be TJ. God, that one's. I mean, these are really good questions, but it's really hard to pick somebody.
So I'm gonna steal your thunder a little bit on this one. So mine for ripping it and blaming someone else. And okay, so I'll go to the second part. The second part, we kind of alluded to it, is who is getting blamed for it. I'm going in the D-line room. Who's ripping it is Devontae Wyatt.
Yeah.
And TJ is definitely catching the heat for it.
Fat guys always get blamed for that shit.
So it's one of the skinny guys in the fat guy room, and it's the biggest guy in the fat guy room getting the heat for it. But you're right. If it was a wide receiver thing, this is definitely either Christian Watson or Bo Melton. It's always one of the fast guys. And Dobbs is definitely the guy.
They would get out of the room quick, like, dude, farted, man, what the hell? Yeah.
And it's definitely Dobbs who's like, wait, where's my pen? No, it wasn't. What?
To be honest, it'd be a coach. I could see a coach pulling that shit, where they would fart in the meeting and try to blame one of the rookies.
His butt kiss.
That's the one that kept coming to mind, but I'm like, man, that guy's a scary guy, and for him to try pulling that off, they would have anybody believing that he didn't do it, they did it, even though they knew for a fact they didn't do it.
You're right, coach. I did it. I'm sorry. Like poor Jacob Buck gets teased off the team or something. I'm sorry, coach. I didn't mean to.
But I could, this is going to sound weird, but I could also see LaFleur being that type of coach.
Or Halfley. LaFleur.
Well, I don't know much about Halfley. I haven't been able to see him too much, but I've seen enough of LaFleur that I think he could be somebody that puts on the airs to everybody else, but in like private, he's the one that's ripping ass, or he's doing some weird ass shit like that.
And then like LaFleur would totally be the guy that, like right now he's got the sling because he tore his pec or whatever the hell. He'd be like, don't blame the handicapped guy. Like he's totally like you said, he's definitely one of those use all the bullets in his belt to flex it. I could also see Stenovich too. Just because
like I said, any of the coaches I think could do it. And hell, I wouldn't be surprised if Ted Thompson didn't used to do that all the time, because then he would blame it just on his age or something. Like that South Park episode where they're in the nursing home, and well, you just gotta accept it.
Oh no. Yeah, you watch him try to like blame it on Gutekunst or Elliot Wolf or something. They're just like,
well, that's probably why Elliot left. I'm not taking any more crap from Ted.
You know who my dad was?
Yeah, no shit. And he used to pull that shit, and I'm not going to take it from you, too.
He made me pull his finger for years.
Oh, a player that would
Harlan.
God, I'm trying to rack my brain, because I think they're football players. They do that shit all the time. I remember what it was like. They would just pull that shit. And the half of them wouldn't even try to blame it on somebody else. They would just say, "Yep, that's me."
Yeah, that's the hard part. That's the hard part. That's the thing too. Is like, I that's why I wouldn't pick Butkus, because I think Butkus would just rip it and be like, "What? Did I tell you that?
What? Drink it in, Rook.
It'll make you stronger, because your opponent's gonna do nasty shit to you out on the field."
Now, the one that would be great, and it wouldn't be in a meeting or something, it would be at practice, and that would be Josh Myers.
Yeah. Sorry, Jordan.
Sorry, but really, I'm not sorry.
I mean, damn, Elton.
But yeah, that one's so hard because, like I said, with as many as flamboyant guys that are on the team, they would just own up to it. Or they would be saying, "Was that you or was that me?"
Yeah.
No, that one was definitely me. That one wasn't me.
I'm the one who ate the chili burger for lunch today.
Did you have kale again? God.
You know how you get.
All right, what else you got real quick?
Most likely to win a Madden tournament.
That could honestly be half the team. With as many of them that play video games, I know
I'll go with
Dylan.
Preston. I'll go with Preston.
Yeah, have you ever watched his gaming stuff?
Yeah,
he's like hard. He's hardcore into role-playing GTA.
Yeah, I know a lot of people will say AJ, but AJ I feel like is the more the laid back, like, video, like, he's doing Farming Simulator. He's doing that to get that he's using video games as a downer, not an upper. So
I've watched AJ play though. He's pretty legit on stuff. Because he usually goes the hardcore Call of Duty stuff. So I mean, he's pretty legit when it comes to gaming.
I guess I've only seen him playing Farming Sim, and not the one where, like, I was defending him. I was like, "Hey, man, I understand you need an escape, and if you gotta go, you have to go till your fields. I understand."
Now, I don't know what he's done lately because it's been a long time since I've caught any of their Twitch channels. But yeah, he would Christian. When Bryn Kurt was on the team, MVS, and there was like a group of guys that were just hardcore into like Call of Duty and stuff like that. And they put like pro gamers to shame, and it's just amazing. So I'm going to say it's kind of a toss-up right now between Dylan and Christian Watson. I've seen Dylan play football games, and he was pretty legit at it. I haven't caught Christian play any yet, though. I know he does game. I know he does do some of that stuff. But I've never been able to watch him play an actual football game. AJ even went so far back that he had somebody bring or get him a jailbroke copy of the last college football game.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So he's legit when it comes to a lot of his sports games.
All right.
So, yeah, that was a top.
And let's bring it back to a little bit more serious one as we wrap up the hour. Most likely to have a bounce back season this year.
I'll go with Stokes again, just with what they've been talking about. And I think he'll do a lot better in the press man system than he was going to in the zone coverage system. And if they've truly figured out his injury problems, I think that's part of the reason why he was struggling on the field, was because his mind was so up with, okay, well, if I do this again, am I going to get injured? Overthinking. He was basically overthinking things because he was worried about getting injured again.
we kind of talked about this with the whole Jair situation. Jair's back last year, where it was
Yeah.
the Minnesota game in Lambeau, where we're like, you and I are both guys that have dealt with back injuries, back issues, and it's like, or are dealing, I should say, with back issues. And we both looked at it and we're like, that's a dude who is trying to count his steps. He's trying to map out everywhere he goes, how he does. He's making sure that when he turns right, his left foot is the last foot that takes a step and all that kind of. So yeah, I totally agree with you that, like, and I know, they're like, oh, but Stokes had foot surgery, but you don't know, like, are you going to feel that shooting pain the next step you take? Are you going to,
right? It doesn't matter if they've already had the surgery. Matter of fact, the surgery makes it worse because then you're second guessing coming back from that surgery.
Yeah.
And you're going to overcompensate after having that surgery. Like, okay, I know they're telling me that it's 100% fixed, but am I going to re-injure it by doing this?
Yeah.
Am I going to
in Stokes' case, I believe we saw that play out where he had the hamstring issue on the opposite leg kind of thing. And like that to me said, I'm not a doctor, but that's textbook one for anyone who's rolled an ankle on one foot and then rolled the ankle or pulled the calf or hamstring on the other leg. It's like you're trying to do, I'm going to jump off of my other leg. This is the leg I'm going to push off on everything with and stuff. Like,
Yep.
yeah, once the news like came out that it's like, he screwed up the left leg and the right hamstring is the one I was like, yep, we all know what's happened. Anyone who's played a sport knows exactly what's going on here. So yeah, like you said. And then my guy is the other guy who went to see the same
uh-oh, we lost Mike. Mike got too excited for it. He dropped out. And I bet he doesn't know he dropped out. This is hilarious. We'll give it a couple minutes here to see if he reconnects. But so I know who he was trying to say before he dropped out, and that's Christian Watson. And that's the same thing. He probably overcompensated a lot due to the injuries. And oh, here he goes. Got too excited and dropped everything.
Watson. They figured out, like you said, one hamstring was stronger than the other one, and it's gonna solve it. And okay, so I know a lot of people are like, how is that possible? So one of the reports is that the outgoing strength and conditioning program with the Packers was a more old school, very like stuck in the 80s and 90s way of strength and conditioning methods. So honestly, and if you follow like Matub on Twitter, he went into this whole thing about like Christian Watson and everyone on the Packers should be doing nothing but RDLs all off season to fix their hamstrings. And so if you're an old school thinking strength and conditioning program, you're doing a lot of just deadlifts, squats, it's both legs at the same time kind of thing. So your body, to move the weight and stuff, you're compensating, but because you're only doing, you're doing bilateral, but you're not doing isometrics at all, you're like, your body just gets accustomed to moving weight a certain way. And that's why you'll think you're strong, you think your body is in sync and stuff. But if you go under the hood and you're like, oh, this hamstring is 20% stronger than the other one. So
or if you look at it, nobody's like body is like the same measurement on everything. So like one of my issues is my left arm is a little bit longer than my right arm. So when I do like a bench press or something, I have to like move my left arm out just a little bit to compensate for the little extra length there. So if he's just like a quarter of an inch longer in one leg than the other, then when, like you said, when he's doing that one motion, the one leg's building up a lot more than the other leg's building up.
Yeah. And you look at like, you just, what is he? He's an explosive athlete, an angular explosive athlete. And you saw like the Kansas City game. How did he get hurt? He's running an end around and he just turns the corner and it's like, oh, like the athlete's joke is like he got shot by the sniper as he turned the corner kind of thing. But
right.
yeah.
And we've talked about that before, where a lot of these guys are coming in that are super freak athletes and the body just can't handle being that freakishly athletic. So they have to retune their body for a lot of this stuff.
Yeah. And I know like it took Clay a long time. And then, that's when he got into like yoga, MMA training.
Tremont did the same thing.
Yeah,
Tremont got into the yoga and all that.
Yeah, you get into the non-traditionals, and that's kind of what switching up strength and conditioning programs is like the guys who have been around the block in Green Bay for a while, they've been working out with the same program, and a lot of it might be the same ones that they've been doing since high school. Whereas you bring in a new age, someone who's open to new ideas and stuff, more, like I said, more isometrics, just all the newest exercises, more Olympic lifts and things like that. Hopefully, we'll see a return to prominence for both Watson and Stokes, and that would be extremely beneficial for the Packers on both fronts if they get healthy returns from both players this 2024 season. But Joe, we've taken this, and honestly, everyone, there are still questions, but we we'll table those for another day just in case we hit the wall again. But like I said, thanks Marisol for helping us out with this one. I had a lot of fun with it, Joe. I hope you had fun with this one. And maybe this will just be kind of an annual thing. Obviously, we'll change up the question. We won't be asking the same questions every year, but this will be.
Who knows? I'll forget what my answers were this year, so I can.
Unless Royce Newman gets brought back for some dumbass reason.
Then I'm definitely going to say he's in the Rodgers camp on that thing, because there's some kind of weird ass conspiracy going on.
There's essence in that mullet. But that's going to do it for us this week on Ohana Packers Edition podcast. Please follow us. Check out our website, ohanapackers.org. Like I said, the last few times, Joy has been doing yeoman's work to get the website up and running again. Check out our online shop for all of our merch, coffee,
buy merch,
sweater, tumblers.
If you want to
fill the tumblers with our coffee.
If you want to support the pod at all, buy merch. I mean, I've got it reasonably priced over there. I don't know if you'll ever find cheaper stuff with people's logos on it. We have not only, like Mike said, the coffee and the tumblers and that, but we have branded stuff. So like you guys listen to Cheese Talk with Brian Rago, we've got his logo slapped on a bunch of things. We have Memorial Day / 4th of July modded emblems this month, even though this might anger some of the people who listen, but that's a whole nother political conversation that we can have at another time. I did finally, as of tonight of this recording, which is Sunday, I did start posting some Pride Month merchandise over on the store. So if you like what you're listening to, you want to help us out a little bit, because even though it's not like super expensive to do a podcast, there is still some cost to it. Help us out, buy some merch, support us, get the word out there. And if there's something we don't have on the site and you want it, let me know. Drop us a DM. Mike's gonna give you the contacts here in a second.
Yep. Be following. So to get in contact with us best, follow the pod on Twitter at Ohana_Packers. That like Joe said, any sort of feedback, any sort of requests for the merch, any and to be eligible for any of our events drawings, you need to be following the podcast's Twitter handle. You can follow us individually, we'd appreciate it, but follow the podcast to be eligible for everything and to get in direct contact with us for all of our giveaways, merch requests, episode content requests, anything of that. We love to hear from you guys. Follow the podcast on your favorite podcasting apps. Give us a like and a subscribe if you're enjoying what you're hearing. Positive or negative comments, please give us all of those, because we want to be producing the content you want to listen to. Packers, move along through the offseason. We're going to be here with you every step of the way. But this is going to do it. Joe and I, like I said, we just had some fun on this one with our summer superlatives for the 2024 Packers. But that's Iowa, Joe. I'm Mike. Go Pack Go, and aloha.